What's up? Welcome into the show and a happy Wednesday to everybody out there. You're watching Philadelphia Eagles Now, and we're live right here on Chat Sports. I'm Chase Sr., and as always, no matter where you are, how you're tuned in, I appreciate you for making today's show a part of your day on this beautiful Wednesday, June 19th, 2024, and we have so much to touch on during the program here today. Segment number one, why Kellen Moore and the Eagles offense will shock the NFL in 2024. We're going to take a look at what Moore is going to bring to Philadelphia as the new offensive coordinator, what you can expect with his scheme, but also why I believe the players are going to benefit from his play designs and his play calling. We also have another Eagles salary cap update, a look at where Philadelphia is positioned right now, how much money they have going into 2024, as well as in 2025, and some potential moves that could happen. And then also some UFL players that the Philadelphia Eagles could sign following that championship game last weekend, and we'll round out with the mailbag. I want to hear from the Bird Gang. I want to hear from you, so get those questions in right now. Use the hashtag Eagles or send in a super chat. I'm Chase Senior, producer Chip on the ones and twos, and the Bird Gang rocking with this from every pocket of America and worldwide. A bit of news to pass along here on the show. Usually we don't know when training camp dates are for teams when you're in the off season, you're in June. We now know when the Eagles will get training camp underway because the NFL announcing the training camp dates yesterday. So both rookies and veterans will report to the NovaCare complex on July 23rd. That marks the official start of Eagles training camp when the Birds start their preparations for this upcoming campaign. If you're excited for the Eagles 2024 season to get underway, I want everybody watching right now to type E down in the comment section because Chip, E-A-G-L-E-S, Eagles! Type those E's in the chat. You're a perv. Nice username. King Javier, Frank Williams, Gary Rubin, Pedro. And what's that supposed to be? You're a perv? You're a perv D. So hopefully I got that right on the second time. I looked at it as the comment section was flowing, and I was like, oh, yeah, that didn't come out right. Devin Baker, Sandra, Scott, Dwight Brown, Donnie Evans, King Javier again. Continue to type those E's down in the comment section. And as you venture in here, please make sure you hit that thumbs up icon and like the video. You can clip that if you want. Here's our super chat menu for today's show. We always appreciate all the donations that come in. All super chats will get a shout out. $10 for a beer cheers, $20 for 20 push-ups, $50 for a beer bong. And if we get to $100 in total super chats, I will do a beer boot here on the stream. 3 beers, 1 boot. Let's have some fun. You're approved is what that username was. It's hard to tell sometimes. I saw you're a perv, and then the username went away because those comments were coming in. But you're approved. There we go. Lindsay Addison, Joe, Donnie, Mike Landers, all in the building right now. And you take a look at our super chat menu here. Can we have an epic super chat battle on the show here today? And let's have a Battle of Pennsylvania. So Steelers Talk went live earlier this week, and they racked up $550 in super chats. I'm not saying we have to get there. I always like to get the victory and the bragging rights inside the walls here at Chat Sports. My question is, can we compete? You send in some super chats. Let's try to get closer to that number because I don't want to get dominated by the Pittsburgh Steelers, that is for sure. And later on this year, we're going to have a Battle of Pennsylvania at Lincoln Financial Field on the Eagles 2024 schedule. To get involved with our mailbag, to get your questions answered, use the hashtag Eagles or send in a super chat. And with 120 people watching live, if you're ready to start the show, to start talking some birds here, hit that thumbs up icon, like the video. We only have 21 likes. Where's everybody at? If you're pumped up to talk some Eagles, smash that thumbs up icon right now. Great show here today. Really excited to dive into everything. And if you haven't subscribed, do so right now. Fly Eagles Fly all the way down to that sub button. Ben G Anybody going to the Smitty ball game? Yeah, the softball game, right? Usually held in Allentown. Always gets a pretty good attendance there. Joe, he liked the video. King Javier did as well. It's a Philly John. Love the username. I'm late, but better late than never. Exactly right. Carol Hosey, how's it going, Chase? It's awesome for me. We only picked up 7 likes right there with 120 people watching live. Continue.
Come on, baby.
Hit that thumbs up icon and like the video. Let's go.
Let's go.
Donnie Evans saying what's up. Up to 30 likes. And a loaded show on tap for today's Eagles Now as people are getting that notification, starting to pile into the show, and the official show is about to get underway. So segment number 1, how Kellen Moore and the Philadelphia Eagles will shock the NFL this season. We're going to talk scheme. We're going to talk usage. We're going to talk pre-snap motion. All of that and more coming up. Donnie Smith saying, enjoy your show. I enjoy you being here. Joseph Krager, hey, from North Carolina, what's up? And then currently rebranding. Just got back from the gym to say what's up. I was at the gym bright and early this morning. 6 a.m. wake up. 1.5 mile run to the gym, hour workout, and I came back home, got ready for work, and now we're here, and we're ready to go live, so let's get it right now. All right, let's do it. You're watching Philadelphia Eagles Now. I'm Chase Sr. Appreciate all of you for making today's show a part of your day, and coming up, why Kellen Moore's offense will shock the NFL in 2024. We're going to talk scheme. We're going to talk player utilization, what you can expect from Kellen Moore as the play designer and play caller for this offense. All of that and more on the docket. So continue to sit back, relax, and hang out here with us. First, though, I want to say thank you to all of the real ones for supporting the show here in June. And you should all give yourselves a pat on the back if you're subscribed to the channel, especially if you're a new subscriber. We push out content every single day, and my goal as the host of Eagles Now to put out shows on a daily basis year-round that are entertaining, insightful, and informative. And there's a lot of competition between hosts here at Chat Sports and all the NFL channels. And during the month of June, Philadelphia Eagles Now has picked up the second most subscribers among all channels here at Chat Sports. That's really impressive, but we're in second place. I'm never content with being second. I always want to be in first place. So hit that sub button right now. Let's take down Vikings now. And in the process, yes, pat yourselves on the back because we're doing great things here on Eagles Now as we continue to build and grow the family. I want to start off the segment with this. There's a big question from a lot of Eagles fans out there, going from Brian Johnson to Kellen Moore. What can I, as a football fan, what can I, as a viewer, a consumer, an Eagles fan, expect from Kellen Moore as this team's offensive coordinator? Some of you might be familiar with what he did with the Dallas Cowboys and last year with the Los Angeles Chargers. If that's the case, here's a refresher. If you don't know, in the words of Notorious B.I.G., now you know. Kellen Moore is known for an aggressive passing attack. He uses a lot of motion and shifts pre-snap. Has a lot of creative packages and formations within his offensive scheme. The offense is malleable. What I mean is that Kellen Moore will do things differently on a week-in, week-out basis and make adjustments in-game. He also has a pretty diverse running game. Some people think that Kellen Moore doesn't like to run the football. I disagree with that because he has had productive rushing attacks as a play caller in the National Football League. Furthermore, what you can expect from Kellen Moore, as far as the pass game goes, he is going to challenge all parts of the field. Another saying for that, he's going to force the defense to defend every blade of grass, vertically and sideline to sideline. He does call a lot of play action, and then in the passing game, calls a lot of deep crosses. That's going to allow A.J. Brown and DeVonta Smith, I think, to have big 2024 seasons. As far as Jalen Hurts goes, Kellen Moore prefers in-rhythm throws from a clean pocket. And he's also going to ask Jalen Hurts to get rid of the football very quickly. for those wide receivers and tight ends for that matter, a much more diverse route tree than what we saw last year under Nick Sirianni and Brian Johnson and in Nick Sirianni's scheme in general. We're going to see unique and creative formations, which then helps the offense create mismatches against the opposing defense because it helps get cues from the opposing defense. Kellen Moore going to utilize a zone run scheme, which is familiar with what we've come to expect the last few years under Nick Sirianni. There are some weaknesses. He's prone to giving up some pressures. And the creativity, I think, bottom line, is going to be really, really refreshing. And that's why I'm excited to talk about this offense today and watch this Eagles offense in the upcoming 2024 campaign. A big reason why I think the Eagles can shock the NFL this year, the difference between Brian Johnson, inexperienced play caller who had never called plays at the NFL level, and Kellen Moore is drastic. We're about to break down numbers from what Kellen Moore's been able to do as an offensive coordinator at the NFL level, but his experience just is going to be much more pleasing to the eye as far as play calling, adjustments, having a feel for the game. And in covering the entire NFL, one thing that I've gathered, which really surprises me, people nationally outside of Philadelphia are down on Jalen Hurts. They're hating on Jalen Hurts. A lot of people, believe it or not, think that Jalen Hurts stinks. And I think this hiring of Kellen Moore is huge for the continued development of Hurts and trying to get him back on track and back to the 2022 MVP runner-up form as compared to last year when down the stretch he did struggle. Now, a lot of people forget that with how ugly the Eagles' collapse was, Jalen Hurts was the odds-on favorite to win MVP as late as November. But I think that Kellen Moore is going to be able to help out Hurts. He did wonders for Dak when he was a young quarterback. I think that he can do the same thing for Jalen because Kellen Moore's done it. And his accomplishments, his resume, pretty impressive. The Cowboys were ranked 6th, 17th, 1st, and 4th in Kellen Moore's 4 years in running the offense. The first year under Jason Garrett, and then the 3 under Mike McCarthy. During Moore's 4 years in Dallas as offensive coordinator and play caller, the Cowboys averaged 27.7 points per game. And that was second most in the NFL behind the Chiefs during that stretch. And Kansas City was putting up 28.8 points per game. And during his 5 years in Dallas as either quarterbacks coach or offensive coordinator, Dallas had the 4th most passing yards in the NFL with 256 per game. So the resume there really does speak for itself. And Kellen Moore was a good quarterback at Boise State, backup quarterback at the NFL level. He's still only 37 years old. So he got into coaching very, very early. And you look at Hurts and the drop-off in play from 2022 to 2023, and I think Kellen Moore, the scheme is going to help Jalen. The reads are going to help Jalen. He's also got to get his confidence back up. Because last year, at the end of the year, I think the scheme was so bad and the Eagles' offense was just so deficient and inconsistent that Hurts, as far as the mental aptitude, there was a dip there from the previous season. In 2022, 15 games played, he threw for 3,700 yards, 66.5% of his passes were completed, 8 yards per attempt, 22 touchdowns, 6 picks. All of those touchdowns through the air. It's not counting what he did on the ground too, which obviously Hurts has a lot of value there. And then last year, he threw for more yards on many more attempts. The completion rate did go down to 65.5%. Yards per attempt went down nearly a yard. Touchdown interception ratio, not bad by any means, but of note, the interceptions did go up. Hurts' first 4 years, I think what's been so impressive here is how Hurts has been able to make strides and develop and work on his game. I mean, in 2020, he completed 52% of his passes, right? And then in 2021, first full season as a starter, it goes up to 61% of his passes. The great 2022 season, completed nearly 67% of his passes. He was excellent on the money downs. He throws for 3,700 yards, and the yards per attempt each year went up until last year, in which there were some struggles. But Brian Johnson's situational play calling, his feel for the game, the inexperience, it was lacking. And because of that, the Eagles' offense was disjointed and it was sloppy. And of course, part of that can be on Nick Sirianni. He's to blame as well because it was his offensive system. It was his offensive philosophy. And the lack of pre-snap motion was a straight-up joke, considering where the rest of the NFL has gone, the value of pre-snap motion, and the Eagles' offense at times looked archaic. But now Kellen Moore, as Sirianni has said, has full authority of this offense. He's calling the shots. It's his scheme. It's his play designs. Nick Sirianni is kind of just the CEO who's overseeing the entire operation. But again, going back to the lack of pre-snap motion, it's just inexcusable how little the Eagles had their weapons in motion pre-snap. The NFL has trended toward pass catchers moving fluidly at the line of scrimmage before the ball is snapped. The 49ers used motion prior to the snap 70.2% of the time. Kansas City Chiefs, 60.5%. Those are the two teams that were top 4 in offensive plays that had player motion that met in the Super Bowl. How about where the Eagles were? The Eagles were noticeably dead last in that category at 26.4%. The only team in the NFL under 30%. Somehow the Eagles were only one of the bottom 6 teams in percentage of offensive plays that had a player in motion that actually made the playoffs. So since Nick Sirianni took over as head coach, the Eagles have set a receiver in motion on 30.1% of their plays, fewest of any team in the NFL. The league average is 47%. So the high of that, you have the Niners at 70%, the Dolphins are even higher, and the Eagles are so low, which doesn't make any sense from a philosophical offensive standpoint because pre-snap motion is simply smart to utilize. You identify the defensive indicators. If a defender is following the offensive player, it usually signifies the defense is in man. If they don't trail, the defense is in zone. That could help out Jalen Hurts. So it helps out your playmakers get in motion with a more favorable matchup. You go away from a really good corner to not as good of a corner. It helps your quarterback know and understand, okay, I can go here or here with the football. There's a soft spot here, soft spot there, etc. Eagles players are also very excited about Kellen Moore at the helm. Here's what DeVonta Smith had to say. I think it's going to be great, this new offense. You get a new style of offense around. Let guys not have more freedom, but be able to do things that we weren't allowed to do, move guys around, things like that. Overall, it's always good to have a fresh start. The fact that DeVonta Smith pretty much said we weren't allowed to move last year pre-snap, not a good look on Nick Sirianni, who I'm high on. I think he's a good quality head coach in this league. And so to recap where we're at up to this point, Moore can help Hurts. Pre-snap motion will help the elite 1-2 punch at wide receiver, and the scheme is going to be better. Let's hear from some more players here. A.J. Brown on the offense. I'd say when it comes to certain routes, trusting each other, me and Jalen Hurts, Smitty, everyone on the field just trusting one another, being on the same page, make sure you have the spot when it's time. I think that's a pretty good thing, a pretty fun thing for a wide receiver. So you could see A.J. Brown and DeVonta Smith continue to put up really, really big numbers. Let's pop up today's poll question. It's here to my right, and I want you to fill in the blank. The Eagles will have a top blank offense in the NFL. We're talking overall offense. Fill in the blank and let me know. More to get to for why I think Kellen Moore and the Eagles offense can shock the NFL in 2024. But I got to tell you once more about this deal. Thanks to our friends at Fanatics. Small, medium, and large shirts available right now. Only $22. Head to chatsports.com/brotherlyshove. The most dominant, most efficient, and best play in football. And it's peak Philadelphia. We continue to move forward here. The Eagles still have a very good offensive line. And I'm a believer that your offensive success oftentimes hinges on the strength and the play of your offensive line. And even though Philadelphia lost Jason Kelce to retirement, this is still a really good offensive line. You have Jordan Mailata, Landon Dickerson, and Lane Johnson, who have all been All-Pros, Pro Bowlers, or Pro Bowl alternates. Cam Jurgens, I like his promise at the center spot. And we'll see who ends up starting at right guard. Will it be Tyler Steen? Will it be Mekhi Becton? It's going to be a pretty good training camp battle. But the point here is that this Eagles offensive line, pass protection, run blocking, I still think is going to be one of the top 5 or 10 offensive lines in the game. And there is a myth that Kellen Moore does not like to run the football. It's a myth. Saquon Barkley can really benefit from playing in this offense. You look at what Ezekiel Elliott did in his 4 years with Kellen Moore as the offensive coordinator, and he put up some really big years. In 2019, Ezekiel Elliott had 301 carries for nearly 1,400 yards, 4.5 yards per carry, and 12 touchdowns. Now, the numbers are interesting after that, but keep in mind that Zeke was starting to get older. The carries went down as they put more on Dak Prescott's plate, but the yards per carry still north of 4 in all of these years except for 2022, and Ezekiel Elliott was a touchdown machine. Look at the touchdowns year by year, 12, 6, 10, 12. And so you put Saquon Barkley on this offense with Jalen Hurts, which makes the RPO more dangerous, alongside A.J. Brown and DeVonta Smith. All of these players are going to have ample opportunities, and the scheme, the play design, is going to lend itself to these players having plenty of opportunities. And while I think Saquon can pop off in 2024, he's a gifted dual-threat weapon. I look at him as the Eagles' version of the Niners' Christian McCaffrey. Use him any way that you can. He's a special playmaker. So find ways to get him the rock. Run him in between the tackles. Do RPO or running back draws. Jalen Hurts under center. He can run to the outside. He can catch a wheel route, a screen pass, a bubble screen, a shovel pass, an Andy Reid trademark from way back in the day. Line him up as a slot receiver and put him up against a nickel corner or a linebacker. So I want to see Philadelphia, and I think Philadelphia will utilize his versatility. With the New York Giants, Saquon Barkley had awful offensive lines. Now he finally has a good one. He's also surrounded with talent. That wasn't the case with the New York Giants. And if healthy, I do think that Saquon Barkley can have a Christian McCaffrey type impact where he could put together a year in which he has 1,500 to 2,000 all-purpose yards. We haven't talked about this weapon yet, Dallas Goedert. I think Dallas Goedert is capable of also having a big year. And there were tight ends with the Dallas Cowboys that put up really good years under Kellen Moore. From Jeff Schwaim to a washed Jason Witten, some of the tight ends were very, very productive in Kellen Moore's scheme. And when you put Dallas Goedert, who's an excellent pass catcher and run blocker, on the field with DeVonta Smith, A.J. Brown, Saquon Barkley, and Jalen Hurts, again, the defense has to cover every blade of grass, and naturally, there are going to be ample opportunities for somebody to make splash plays pretty consistently. And then lastly, I think this Eagles offense can be really, really good this year because the Eagles defense will be much better, led by Vic Fangio. And this is a talking point that I've gone back to many times here on the show. The Eagles are going from Brian Johnson, who had never called plays offensively, and Sean Desai, who had 1 year of play calling experience, to Kellen Moore and Vic Fangio. The coordinator hires alone, I think, puts this Eagles team in a much better spot to rebound from last year. And this Eagles defense being better, which will in turn help this offense out. You come to the conclusion that the Eagles can have a really special season in 2024. If you enjoyed today's show, let's do a real one, real call. A lot of analysis on the segment here today, so type real one down below. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to subscribe. And be sure to give me a follow on X, on Instagram, at Chase_Senior. Both platforms are popping here. We put out a lot of long-form content here on Eagles Now. You can find short-form content and overall thoughts on my social media pages. Segment number 1 in the books. Good stuff right there. Joseph Krager, Lamont Lancaster. It's a Philly John. All saying real one. Isaiah said, "You're funny." I think that I'm funny too. You're approved. $10 super chat. Go Birds. You're approved, not you're a perv. And you're approved is a first time. Super Chatter. Good to see a couple of real ones back. Lamont Lancaster, Carol Hosey, Pedro Reza saying Eagles, baby. Let's get it.
Want to give a shout out too. I saw during that segment, where was the name here? It was someone's first time watching this show, and they said, I'm loving it. I want to make sure I get their name in here for a little shout out. Let's see. Donnie Evans.
Donnie Evans
said this is the first time watching this show, and I like the show. Shout out Donnie Evans. If it's your first time watching the show live, type me.
Yeah,
where are first timers at, huh?
Pop the cherry today. First timer. David Marcella is back.
F Trizzy. And Millie's saying it. Like the video, fam. We're up to 64 likes now, 120 people, about 50%. Pretty solid.
Millie315 back in the building. All right, here's our Super Chat menu, by the way. I've had this drink waiting here. Cheers. You're approved, $10 Super Chat. $10 for a beer. Cheers. 20 push-ups, 50 for a beer bong. If we get to 100 total, I'm doing a beer boot. And here's our Super Chat battle. Earlier this week, Pittsburgh Steelers talk. Middle of June. They did $550 in Super Chats. Can we compete? I'm not saying we have to beat them, even though I'd love to. Can we compete? Let's get it. Bragging rights in the state of Pennsylvania. We have 2 more segments to get to, and then we'll get to our mailbag. But it's never too early to get those questions in. Use the hashtag Eagles or send in a Super Chat. David Marcel, I've missed you guys. This ALS is destroying me. Sorry to hear that, man. I know I mentioned this to you before. Have you found a good CBD cream, CBD oil, CBD tincture? I know it's different, but I take a lot of CBD. It does help as far as muscle soreness. So I have a good brand that I use, Marcella. It's Santa Cruz Medicinals. I use a beef tallow CBD. It's excellent. And then they have a coconut oil CBD. Not sure if that could help you, but I'm trying to help because I appreciate you and I love you, man. Millie315, dog days of the offseason, and the guys are live making content for us. You already know. And we're going to continue to do that because segment number 2 takes a look at the Eagles salary cap and an update on that front. Let's do it. This is Philadelphia Eagles Now. I'm Chase Sr., and no matter where you are, how you're tuned in, as always, we appreciate you for making today's show a part of your day. And coming up, an Eagles salary cap update. A look at where Philadelphia stands financially a month and change away from training camp. We're going to look at the cap numbers for 2024, but then, of course, and do what all good businesses do, look ahead to 2025. I do want to start off with this, though, and I want everybody to engage. If you think that Howie Roseman is the best general manager in the NFL, I want you to hit that thumbs up icon and like the video. If not, you are entitled to your opinion, but I want you to share why and explain that down in the comment section. You take a look at the Eagles salary cap space. They're in a good position right now if they need to make any moves or if they want to save some of this money and just allot it for the future. Right now, Philadelphia has the 11th most cap space in the National Football League with $25.7 million at their disposal. In 2025, the number is pretty low, but I'm going to explain why you shouldn't be panicking about that. It's $6.4 million, which drops down to 24th among 32 teams in the NFL. Right now, currently, having nearly $26 million in cap space is great. The outlook for next year, not as great, but remember this. Cap space can be rolled over year to year. So if the Eagles literally don't spend another dime this year for the 2024 season, you have all of that cap space on top of the $6+ million that you have next year. And then Philadelphia has well north of $30 million to utilize. There are also ways to clear up cap space. You can simply make trades. You can make roster cuts that are beneficial to your bottom line. Contract restructures are a way to free up some cash flow. Contract extensions can do that because you pay a player guaranteed money, and that could lead naturally to more cap space. And then when you are signing players to deals, keep in mind, signing bonuses, dummy years, backloading contracts, all of those are ways to clear up some cap space. And you know that Howie Roseman will find a way because it's Howie Roseman. This is what Howie Roseman does, and that's why I posed the question to start the show, is he the best general manager in football? One Super Bowl to his name, a lot of success as the GM of this organization. Credit to Jeffrey Lurie for giving him the freedom to spend money, be aggressive, to put together a high-quality football unit. But the Eagles have so many great players, yet they're always still in a very good cap situation. As for teams with the most cap space in the National Football League, the Eagles are not top 10, just on the cusp of being top 10. But this is where other teams are. New England Patriots leading the way with $45.5 million. They're a rebuilding team. The Detroit Lions, one of the top teams in the NFC, they have 38.7. The Commanders, a few years away from being competitive, I believe, well-positioned financially with $37 million. And then the same can be said for the Arizona Cardinals and Jonathan Gannon with $35.5. Las Vegas Raiders have a solid team. They're kind of middle of the pack in the NFL, but still $34 million in the bank. San Francisco 49ers, $32.7 million. Very similar situation with the Niners, like the Eagles, where they have a lot of cap space right now, and then next year, not a lot. Jacksonville Jaguars, even after the Trevor Lawrence contract extension, 28.6. Green Bay Packers with 28.4. Vikings with 26.2. Colts with 25.9. Also keep in mind that the NFL salary cap will continue to rise. Business is booming for the NFL. Its popularity nationwide and worldwide continues to skyrocket. The television ratings continue to be unbelievable. And this league continues to be a lucrative cash cow. Look at how much the NFL salary cap has jumped year over year over the last 5 years. As recent as 2020, the NFL salary cap was $198.2 million. That was a 5.3% increase. Following year, it did go down, but that was the ramification of COVID, when fans couldn't go to games or there were limited fans allowed to go to games. And of course, that hit all businesses hard, including the NFL. But then there's a 14% increase after that because 2021 ended up being a great year for the league, and the cap goes up to $208.2 million. After that, a 7.9% increase up to $224.8. And then this past year, historic, $255.4 million is the salary cap, a 13.6% increase. Now, if the Eagles wanted to use money now, they can. So we could take a look at the top remaining free agents. If they want to hold on to this money and allow it to roll over to next year, they have that flexible option. And with these free agents here, these are positions in which I think the Eagles have some question marks at, like RB3 or RB4. Do you bring in one of these veterans? Dalvin Cook, Cam Akers, Kareem Hunt, Jerick McKinnon, and Latavius Murray. You're in a good spot, obviously, with Saquon Barkley, Kenneth Gainwell, Will Shipley. Those are three good backs. Fourth running back, though, you might be able to do better, and we'll certainly see what happens in training camp as well. Top available wide receivers. And by the way, I think Kendall Milton has a chance to make the team as a goal line back. Top available wide receivers. Michael Thomas, Hunter Renfrow, Corey Davis, Randall Cobb, Martavis Bryant. This position group, pretty thin on talent. And I don't love the wide receiver 3 situation. You have A.J. Brown, DeVonta Smith. Together, they are one of the best wide receiver duos in the NFL. But the Eagles right now are relying on a fast but always injured Paris Campbell, a fast but always injured John Ross, Anaya Smith, rookie. Johnny Wilson, rookie. Britton Covey has only been a returner. Joseph Nagata, unproven commodity. So I do think that Philadelphia is in a bad spot if A.J. Brown and or DeVonta Smith were to get hurt. Top available edge rushers if you're looking for depth here. Emmanuel Agba, Yannick Ngakoue, Carl Lawson, Jerry Hughes, Charles Harris. I'd say among all position groups, this is a solid grouping right here, but I think that Philadelphia might stand pat. Bryce Huff, it's time to earn your money. You had one great year with New York. Great story as a UDFA. You got a bag. Good for you. You earned it. But now that you're paid $17 million per year, it's time to get after the quarterback and eat. And then for Nolan Smith, time to take that leap. I think he had under 100 pass rush snaps last year. He's going to have a much more sizable role, and I want to see that sophomore jump. Top available linebackers. You want to revisit Shaquille Leonard or Zach Cunningham? Shaq Leonard is completely cooked. Zach Cunningham, I still think he can play. Pretty surefire tackler there. Quan Alexander coming off an injury, and then Josh Woods. And then lastly, I know I said edge rusher might be the deepest position group for top available free agents. I think safety might take the cake here because Justin Simmons is a four-time All-Pro, leads the NFL in picks since 2016. He is the dream free agent target for me because C.J. Gardner-Johnson, Justin Simmons would be an excellent ball-hawking safety tandem, and then Reed Blankenship, Sidney Brown as backups. Give me that. He also played under Vic Fangio. Eddie Jackson, a former All-Pro in 2018, also played under Vic Fangio, but he's starting to show some signs of decline, whereas Justin Simmons still playing good ball. Micah Hyde, Quandre Diggs, Jamal Adams, rounding out that list. I probably like Quandre Diggs the most. He does have a relationship with Darius Slay as they overlapped with the Detroit Lions. So which free agent among the free agents that we just talked about do you like the most? Let me know down in the comment section by dropping me a name. And thanks for watching the show. Don't forget to subscribe. Segment number 2. Down just like that.
Favorite free agent. If you could pick one. I'm with you, Chase. Give me Justin Simmons, man. Give me Justin Simmons. Crazy's just still out there. Have to imagine when training camp rolls around, though, he'll be looking to latch onto a squad. You're approved, Justin Simmons.
Justin Simmons, Carol Hosey. Don't put a space in between hashtag and Eagles, Carol, so that we can get that question on the mailbag. Andrew Nathan using hashtag Eagles. Also, Gerald Braun is pointing out our poll question today. And the poll question is, who's the better Eagles running back? LaShawn McCoy, Brian Westbrook. 59% LaShawn McCoy. I am going to disagree. And I think some of that might be we have a younger audience here who didn't watch Brian Westbrook, like producer Chip, who was still rocking a binky when Brian Westbrook was playing for Andy Reid in Philadelphia. Brian Westbrook was the ultimate fantasy football player before fantasy blew up. Because if you were playing a PPR league, Brian Westbrook was catching screen passes, catching footballs, and running it. He was an incredible player. LaShawn McCoy was incredible too. Don't get me wrong. Both are legends. But I think Brian Westbrook was a little bit better. And then speaking of the, I guess, younger bias, this was a poll question that I put up last week or a few days ago. Pick the best Eagles offensive tackle. And it was a list of Jason Peters, Lane Johnson, John Runyon, Trey Thomas. 69% said Lane Johnson. Now, he's been the best right tackle in the game for a long time, but Jason Peters might be a Hall of Famer. And again, I grew up watching John Runyon and Trey Thomas. Jason Peters has 24%. John Runyon, 6%. Trey Thomas, 2%. That's low to me. That's really low. That's all I'm saying. See, Lamont said B. West all day. He loved Shady. You're approved. Westbrook was a beast. Lamont Lancaster likes Justin Simmons as well. It's a Philly John, said John Runyon. John says John. Here's a look at our Super Chat battle. Earlier this week, Pittsburgh Steelers Talk, they had a show just go nuclear when they were live for Paul Skeens pitching for the Pittsburgh Pirates. $550 in Super Chats. Can we even compete? If we get to 100, I'll do a beer boot. 3 beers, 1 boot. All right. One more segment, and then we'll get to our mailbag. So segment number 3 coming up, but continue to get those questions in using the hashtag Eagles. Anybody who sends in a Super Chat, you can skip the line, and we'll get those questions answered.
Only a couple have come in so far. Andrew Nathan. Carol, make sure to ask that question again, but get rid of that space between the hashtag and the Eagles. Get on the show, baby. Make your voice heard here. It's what we do. It's what we do. So get those questions in. But do we have a Chiefs fan in here? Ian saying Chiefs Kingdom? Boo. Yeah, Philly John. Obviously, I didn't get to watch Brian Westbrook, but Shady was so electric.
Both electric.
Both electric.
Both dual threat running backs, but I think that Brian Westbrook was just a little bit better.
Just one of my favorite childhood memories of the Eagles, and everybody knows, is that snow game, man, against the Lions when Shady was running wild. It was just something, man. It's something that I'll remember forever. Just seeing him in that snow, in that environment, go crazy. It's just so special, man. LFX getting the question in. There we go, baby.
LFX. Yeah, so he asked a question that I was just talking about with the running backs. You know, you're top heavy at the running back spot. Saquon, and then after that, Kenneth Gainwell, Will Shipley. I'd like to see some more talent in that room. You know, do you want to go Dalvin Cook, though? You know, Cam Akers has always had a lot of ability. But again, they would be RB4. So I just think that you could be a little bit better. Do they like Kendall Milton? Can he be the goal line back? That's a possibility. Mike Rowland, Westbrook speed versus Shady elusiveness. That's a good one.
You're approved. Same thing as Carol, you're approved. You can't add that space between hashtag and Eagles, otherwise it won't show up.
Yeah.
So that's a great question, but get rid of that space. See Carol fixing the question right there. Do the same thing, you're approved. Get rid of that space and we'll be able to get that on the show for sure. Great question. And Carol, good job. Good job. That's a great question.
All right, let's move forward with segment number 3. It's toward the tail end of June. So we have to do this. UFL players that the Philadelphia Eagles could sign. We're going to have some fun with this. It's going to be fun. We're still talking ball. For everybody who likes to be lazy and comment clickbait, this is for you. So it's at the end of June. It's a dry spell on the NFL calendar, but we can still talk some football. Coming up here on today's Philadelphia Eagles now, the top UFL players that Philadelphia could sign after the UFL held their championship game last weekend with Tom Brady on the call, making his Fox debut. And there have been a litany of UFL, NFL deals so far. Ricky Person, a running back, signed with the Seattle Seahawks. Jacob Sailors, a running back, signed with the New York Giants. David Davis, a wide receiver, signed with the Panthers. Liam Fornadell, offensive lineman, inked a deal with New England. Jared Jones-Smith, an offensive lineman, latched on with the Atlanta Falcons. Jalen Redmond, defensive lineman, went to Minnesota. Dondre Tillman, edge rusher, he signed with the Broncos. Willie Harvey, earlier this week, signed with the Dallas Cowboys. He's a linebacker. Former Raider legend, Garyon Conley, cornerback, trying to make his return to the NFL. He signed with the Dallas Cowboys. And then a player who a lot of people might know, and maybe he's the most notable player on this list, Jake Bates, the kicker, signing with the Detroit Lions. He's the guy who hit a couple of long, clutch, cold-blooded kicks earlier this year during the UFL season. So with that, let's take a look at some UFL targets for Philadelphia in free agency. And I want to start off with Hakeem Butler, a wide receiver who this year with the Battlehawks had a really good year. He's 28 years old. He had reeled in 45 catches, 652 yards, 5 touchdowns, 14.5 yards per catch. If the name sounds familiar, he was with Philadelphia during training camp all the way back in 2020. He was the UFL Offensive Player of the Year, and he was one of the players who at Eagles training camp was turning some heads because he has great size. 6'5", 227 pounds, a former 4th-round pick, 103 overall, back in the 2019 draft by the Arizona Cardinals. Played his college football at Iowa State, 60 catches in 2018, 1,300 plus yards, 9 touchdowns, average yards per catch, 22. If you're not familiar with him, played at Iowa State, as I mentioned. He's a 4th-round pick by Arizona, as I noted. Last played in the NFL in 2020 with Philadelphia. So it's actually been a little while. And with the Eagles, I actually think he was on the active roster. On September 29th, he was signed to the active roster off the Panthers practice squad, converted to tight end, and then waived on October 31st of 2020, then re-signed to the practice squad a couple of days later, then signed a reserve future contract with Philadelphia on January 4th, and then he was waived on August 23rd, 2021. So, as I was saying, during training camp, some people were like, he's really tall, 4th-round pick, converted to tight end. Does he have some ability? Obviously, his NFL stint was somewhat short-lived. And why I bring up Hakeem Butler is you're good at the first 2 wide receiver spots with A.J. Brown and DeVonta Smith. But Paris Campbell might be a 4-3 guy, has a lot of speed, always injured though. And wide receiver 3 is a big question mark. John Ross, always injured. Johnny Wilson, big but plays small and he's a rookie. Anaya Smith, short area quickness and wiggle, but again, he's a rookie and he's a little bit smaller. Joseph Nagata, Britton Covey is a good returner in returning punts, but hasn't been utilized a lot as a wide receiver in this league. So could you bring in Hakeem Butler to see what he could do coming off Offensive Player of the Year honors at the UFL level? What say you? Should the Eagles sign a UFL player? Is this roster set right now? Share your thoughts with us down below in the comment section. UFL target number 2 is Cole Lavao. He's an interior offensive lineman, and I'm always intrigued by offensive linemen that the Eagles could sign because you have Jeff Stoutland, who is the best offensive line coach in the NFL. This is a player who has offensive guard and center versatility. Now, the Eagles have kind of addressed interior offensive line this offseason. They signed Matt Hennessy, Max Sherping, drafted Trevor Keegan, Dylan McMahon. But again, I'm always intrigued by offensive linemen who the Eagles could sign because Jeff Stoutland maximizes those players. Eagles starting offensive line in a really good spot. Going into this offseason, I was worried and concerned about the depth, but I think Philadelphia has done a better job of building up that depth over the last couple of months. Before we continue to keep it moving, Philadelphia Eagles now has crushed it in the month of June. This is a list of 10 NFL channels under the Chat Sports umbrella, and I think at this point, we're covering 22, 23 of the 32 teams, maybe even a little bit more. So for Philadelphia Eagles now to be second on this list for the most subscribers picked up since June 1 is awesome. Pat yourselves on the back. Let's celebrate that, but let's win this battle. Let's overtake Vikings now, and we're not far behind, only 32 subscribers away. Hit that sub button right now for informative, insightful, thought-provoking Eagles content every single day that involves you, the viewer, and the subscriber. Also, a great deal that we want to tell you about real quick. Thanks to our friends at Fanatics. The Brotherly Shove shirts I wear mine all the time. I'm not going to lie. Chatsports.com/brotherly shove on sale for just $22. Get yours today. We go to the defensive side of the football now, in particular to the edge rusher spot. Breeland Speaks, his UFL stats in 2024. He had 9.5 sacks. On top of that, he had 13 TFLs. So he was consistently making plays in the backfield. And on top of that, 31 tackles. And we know that Vic Fangio is going to trot out a 3-4 defense here in 2024. And it's going to have some hybrid elements to it. And I'm interested to see how Vic Fangio configures things along that defensive line. Milton Williams, Jordan Davis, Jalen Carter, Moro Jomo, Marlon Tupuoletu. Those are really the marquee players competing for time along the defensive line. But then you have the edge rushers and the off-ball linebackers. And the Eagles have a very interesting cast of players at the edge rusher spot. Bryce Huff, one good year of production. Can he continue his ascent? Can Brandon Graham and Josh Sweat fit into this defensive scheme? What can Jalix Hunt give you, if anything, as a rookie who's a little bit raw but has a lot of natural ability? Nolan Smith going to have half the monster campaign. I want to see that big jump from year 1 to year 2. And then at the off-ball linebacker spot, obviously, who's going to start alongside Devin White? Will it be Nakobe Dean? Will it be Zach Bond? Could it be Oren Burks? Could it be Jeremiah Trotter Jr.? UFL target number 4. Does the last name Nakua sound familiar? You know the name Puka Nakua, right? Shattered records last year as a receiver for the Los Angeles Rams. That's Puka Nakua. Kai Nakua is his brother, and he is a safety. And he played in the UFL this past year, tied for the UFL lead with 3 interceptions. Football running through the bloodlines because Kai, Puka Nakua's older brother, and Puka Nakua was just incredible last year as a rookie. And it's crazy because he had all these injuries while playing in college, and he gets linked up with Matthew Stafford alongside Cooper Kupp, Sean McVay calling the plays, and he was unstoppable. He's just very consistent with how he operates. And I brought up Justin Simmons a lot because I think the Eagles can get a little bit better at the safety spot. Right now, the starters, C.J. Gardner-Johnson, Reed Blankenship. Your backups, Sidney Brown, Tristan McCullum, Mekhi Garner, Andre Sam. The depth there, a little bit of a concern. And then lastly, Sal Cannella, a tight end, comes in as UFL target number 5 on our list of UFL players who the Eagles could ink to deals. With the Renegades this year, those are clean uniforms. 53 catches, 496 yards. He brought in and reeled in a lot of touchdowns, 6 of them. You know that Dallas Goedert is going to be your tight end 1, but who's going to be the backup? Albert Okwuegbunam, CJ Uzama. Grant Calcaterra probably has the inside track after a good spring. Do you bring in Sal Cannella to compete to try to make this roster as a backup tight end? Name a player that the Philadelphia Eagles should sign by way of the UFL. Thanks for watching today's show. We appreciate your support as always. Everybody watching live right now, be sure to hit that sub button.
Some UFL targets.
UFL targets. We're 8 likes away from 100, by the way. Be sure to hit that thumbs up icon and like the video right now. We're up to $10 in Super Chats. Here's our Super Chat menu. We get to 100 in total. I'm doing a beer boot. No big baller Paul today. He got married over the weekend.
Congrats.
Congrats to Paul. And if you're watching Paul, congrats. He's usually one of our big-time Super Chatters, but here's our Super Chat menu because we're just trying to compete with the Pennsylvania State rival in the Pittsburgh Steelers. Earlier this week, they put up $550 in Super Chats. Again, we're just trying to compete on that level. We're at 10 right now. It is time for a mailbag here on Philadelphia Eagles now as we round out with our 4th and final segment.
Let's see here.
Use hashtag Eagles or send in a Super Chat.
We did get a lot of good questions. Shout out David
Great
Marcella,
questions.
Andrew Nathan, LFX, everybody asking questions. I think we're pretty good to go. Again, if you want to make sure your question is answered. And get it at the front of the show. If you send in a super chat and ask a question, guaranteed to get on there. Otherwise, it's up to my discretion. Another good one from your approved. Be sure to get that one on there.
Yes, sir.
So last chance. Get involved, get on the show. Be a part of this community here. Joseph Krager. I like that question. Gonna be a long time now, little break without football. Surprised the tight end hasn't been signed yet. I was surprised that that UFL tight end hasn't been signed yet. Saw his game 2 weeks ago. He looked good.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, good opportunity.
You're approved. Just loves ball.
Love it. Glad we're on good terms now, after that slip up in the beginning. Awesome. All right.
All right, here we go. Mailbag coming up. Segment number 4. We've been live for almost an hour now. And so we'll eclipse an hour, taking your questions to round out the live show on this fine Wednesday, June 19th. Let's go. Really excited for today's Philadelphia Eagles now. Hope all of you watching the show are having a fantastic weekend. Coming up, our weekly mailbag segment where we take questions, comments, analysis, hot takes, and more from our real ones, our viewers and our subscribers. And speaking of our subscribers, Eagles Now has had a great month of June when you consider it's the desert as far as NFL content because OTAs and minicamp are in the rear view. Philadelphia not going to meet for training camp until July 23rd. We're still crushing the game, and as the host of this show, entering year 3 on the beat of covering the Birds, every year that I've been the host, our numbers have gone up year over year. So let's continue to do that, and I think this is a really impressive graphic because of all the NFL channels at Chat Sports, Philadelphia Eagles Now has picked up the second most subscribers. That's huge for us from a business standpoint. The more subscribers that we get, more eyeballs, more views, more channel growth. But I want to take down Vikings Now as we are 32 subscribers away from overtaking that channel. So hit that sub button today. And as always, go Birds! Andrew Nathan getting us started with this one right here. And Andrew Nathan always knows ball, always shows off the football intellect, and always asks very good questions. He's also very funny on social media. Chase, what are the chances that Howie Roseman not only trades or cuts James Bradberry, but he trades away Darius Slay, and we roll out Quinnia Mitchell, Keely Ringo, and Isaiah Rodgers as our starting cornerbacks? Obviously, we have talked a lot about trading away James Bradberry, and Philadelphia would literally save no money this year in trading away Bradberry. Such an interesting player because the path of his career has been so fascinating. He's literally had this trajectory and this path of one good year, one bad year, one good year, one bad year. Last year was awful. And the drop-off from 2022, when he was a second-team All-Pro, was a huge drop-off. Could the Eagles be banking on him having a good year in 2024? That could be the case, but honestly, I don't really care if he's on this roster or not, because what I want to see is the continued development of Keely Ringo and Eli Ricks, and I want to see what Quinnia Mitchell and Cooper DeJean can do. And Isaiah Rodgers is also a cornerback who I'm intrigued by because 2 years ago when he was playing with the Colts, graded out very well according to Pro Football Focus, and had a great spring for Philadelphia in OTAs and minicamp. And the Eagles are in a spot where they're so deep at the cornerback spot. I think that they could give away James Bradberry. They could spread out that remaining money on the rest of his contract over the next couple of years. Darius Slay is an interesting one, and we haven't talked about trading away Slay. And let me look at his salary numbers according to Over the Cap. So if the Eagles were to trade him post June 1, they would have to take on $9.4 million in dead money, and they would only save 1.2. It just doesn't make sense to trade away Darius Slay from that financial standpoint. Let me also say this. Darius Slay 2 years ago, like Bradbury, they were one of the best cornerback duos in the NFL. He played very well. Last year, Darius Slay was better than what people give him credit for. Keep in mind the defensive scheme, and I've said this so much, was a piece of shit. So it's hard to gauge who played well, who played poorly. He gets the knee operated on. He said the speed is back. He feels good. I'm still rolling with Bradbury. What do you do at that other cornerback spot? I'm getting rid of I'm rolling with Slay. At the other cornerback spot, I'm getting rid of Bradbury, and it's going to be a competition between Rodgers, Ringo, Quinion Mitchell, and then Cooper DeJean can start in the slot for me. Carol Hosey next up. With the new offensive system, there is a learning curve. Any word on how quickly they are picking it up? It's hard to gauge during OTAs and minicamp. The indication that we did get was that the offense was struggling in picking up the new scheme during minicamp, when in 3 days of those mandatory practices, the Philadelphia Eagles defense won Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and it wasn't really close. Now, I think it's easier at this point of the offseason to fire on all cylinders, do less thinking, to get after the football, and to be aggressive defensively. Whereas on offense, there's scheme, there's play design, there are nuances, there are complexities, and the thought process is a little bit more delayed. But clearly, there's a learning curve, no doubt. And in training camp and the preseason joint practices, we'll certainly see. David Marcella, can we get some info on Jalen Hurts? Will he make the 53-man roster? People are very impressed with the athletic traits that he has. And what's interesting about Jalen Hurts, he started off at Cornell as a safety. Then he went to Houston Christian, turned into an edge rusher, and he's a player with good burst, good wingspan, good length, good speed, solid physicality, although might have to add a little bit of weight to his body to be an edge. What's interesting is that Daniel Jeremiah is an NFL draft mind that I really trust and value in the pre-draft process. He had as a top 100 guy. Vic Fangio really liked Jalen Hurts. So it was a little bit of a reach for Philadelphia to take a project where they did. Has a chance to make the 53 for sure. With a player like that, it's hard to cut him, expecting him to clear waivers to bring him back on the practice squad. So for that reason, might make the 53 outright. You're approved. How do you see our deep secondary situation shaping out? So I kind of answered that with what Andrew Nathan added to the show a little bit earlier. At safety, if they don't pick up a Justin Simmons or a Quandre Diggs or an Eddie Jackson, it's going to be C.J. Gardner-Johnson and Reed Blankenship at safety, with Sidney Brown and Mekhi Garner as the backups. Darius Slay will be one of the starting corners. And then on the other side, I think Quinion Mitchell is going to be given opportunities. Kelee Ringo will have a shot. Isaiah Rodgers will have a shot. And I think those are the corners who are going to have the realistic chances to start opposite of Darius Slay. It's a much better and much improved unit from what we saw last year. Andrew Nathan, Chase, ESPN ranked our linebacking group 30th in the league. Do you think that we will add a body to the group via trade or free agency? Could you see Howie making a splash move and a trade for Tremaine Edmunds? We have talked about Tremaine Edmunds here on the show as one of the players who could get traded in a move where the Bears would basically admit, we made a mistake in signing him to that big deal. He didn't play well for us last year. Statistically, the Pro Football Focus numbers were not good at all. Why I have confidence in this linebacking group and why I think Devin White can have a rebound season, Vic Fangio has coached the linebacker position as a linebackers coach. His defensive scheme has elevated linebackers. If the defensive line can eat, that's going to help out. And I'm just a believer in Devin White. I know that analytically he didn't check out, but I've seen the dude play. I've seen him be a game changer and a game wrecker. I've seen him be an all-pro and a guy who was a defensive stud and missile for a team that won a Super Bowl that had a great defense. Now, opposite of Devin White, Nakobe Dean's always injured. He's a little bit small. He has to stay healthy and prove that he can play in this league. Zach Bond, that is risky because he's primarily been an edge rusher, and now Vic Fangio is utilizing him as an off-ball linebacker. 30th, it's not a bad ranking. If you want to go free agency, Shaq Leonard, no way. Zach Cunningham, late signing. I thought that for him and his tackling ability last year, he was at least serviceable. Lamont Lancaster, I would love to have the Penn State dual threat running backs of Saquon Barkley and Miles Sanders. What's interesting is that the Panthers ended up drafting Jonathan Brooks in the second round, first running back taken in the 2024 draft out of Texas. And to some, that signaled, are they going to move on from Miles Sanders, who they signed to a pretty good deal last offseason? I'm always of the belief you need a couple of good running backs on your team because of the injury rate at the running back position. I think Carolina is going to have Miles Sanders and Jonathan Brooks at that RB spot. If he were to get let go, would Miles Sanders be willing to come to Philadelphia as a backup just to team up with Saquon, or would he go somewhere else where he can get some more gives? Sean Clark, if the Birds have a dumpster fire of a season, do you see Nick Sirianni getting fired? And how would you feel if Kellen Moore gets promoted to head coach? Man, it depends on how the offense performs. If the offense is also a dumpster fire, you're not going to elevate Kellen Moore. That would make no sense. If the offense is excellent and puts up great numbers, yet the Eagles as a team are still having sideline arguments and the culture continues to be broken and situationally game management Nick Sirianni lacks there. He was so good in that area in 2022 and was bad in 2023. Then you look at a guy like Kellen Moore as maybe elevating. But if the Eagles have a dumpster fire, it probably means the offense is awful. And if the offense is awful, you're not going to elevate Kellen Moore. But to your point, if this is a bad year for Philadelphia, given the pressure of this city, given what happened last year, that would be back-to-back disappointing years with a really loaded roster. Sirianni will be out of here. And then you try to get the best offensive mind, Ben Johnson, Detroit Lions. A lot of Bill Belichick paper trails to follow from last offseason. Could they revisit that with the Super Bowl-ready team and a veteran head coach who is maybe the GOAT in winning Super Bowls? It would be a fascinating offseason, and we'd cover it right here on the show. Lion Fighter, who will lead the defense in sacks this year? Great question. Great question. Because everybody's kind of unproven. Bryce Huff's had one good year. I'm not sure if Brandon Graham and Josh Sweat are scheme fits. Nolan Smith has a Hassan Reddick type of build, but can he make that sophomore leap? I'll go safe bet, and I'll go Bryce Huff. 10 sacks last year. And I think that he can continue that ascent and live up to the payday. But that's a challenging one. I'm fascinated to see at the end of the year who leads his team in sacks. Joseph Krager, last question. How do you plan to maintain sanity on July 23rd? Well, that is when training camp gets underway, when rookies and veterans report. I'm going to be really pumped up. The thing is, Eagles report the training camp July 23rd. I think I go to Cabo 2 days later, and then right after that, I'm going to Maine. So what's really going to be difficult for me is maintaining my sanity as I'm by a pool or on the beach and then on a lake in Cabo and Maine, and all this juicy Eagles stuff is coming out. I'm going to have to bring an at-home studio with me, microphone, ring light, camera, to be able to do some content because I love working. I love talking ball. And if there's good stuff to talk about, it's my job to inform everybody. I'm going to have to do it here on Philadelphia Eagles Now. But I can't wait because that's the first official start, Joseph, of the 2024 season where you're starting the prep for the upcoming year and preseason games quickly after that, and then we roll right into the regular season. Gonna be epic. Epic show today. Always great talking with everybody. I've been putting out these mailbags on Sundays, and the views have been tremendous. So we're going to continue to go about it in that way. Thanks for watching. Thanks for commenting. Thanks for subscribing. You're the best. Real ones, baby. Yay, yay.
Yes, sir, yes, sir, yes, sir. You're proving another one. It's very early. with unofficial training camp coming up, what do you think our biggest question mark is as it relates to our offensive core right now? If you're just talking about the starters, it's got to be either wide receiver 3 or what goes on at right guard. One of those two.
Yeah. Linebacker, not Devin White. That's another good one.
The scheme as well on offense as a whole.
Yeah.
How do they look?
No doubt. No doubt. You're approved. Great show, fellas. Thank you. Key Time Bill, Cherokee Reservation guy. Yoo-hoo! What up, playa? Andrew Nathan. What did he say? Another great show, and then the heart icon is over that other way.
Another great show.
Slow news day. We make our own news chat. Exactly.
Always stuff to talk about.
Always stuff to talk about. Just got to be creative. And that's why we did the salary cap update, UFL targets. You helped drive the show, Andrew Nathan and others, with the questions. That's always good. All right, let's do this to round out the show. 2-minute super chat shot clock. If you want us to continue the show, send in a super chat. If not, we'll sign off. All good, and we'll call it a day.
Oh, I can hear our Steelers stream right now. Here we go.
Terrapin Tom, I'd like to know how to listen to Eagles games with Merrill Reese in Florida without paying. So you know what I actually think WIP, that's Sports Radio 94 WIP in Philadelphia, and that's a part of the Odyssey network, is doing now, is that if you download the Odyssey app, you can actually listen to Merrill Reese call games on the app. Now, I'm not sure if that's only in the Philadelphia area or if it's nationwide. That's also a big reason why our watch parties do crazy numbers. Because here on the show, we bring Eagles fans together from all across the world. I do play-by-play. And together we live through the highs and lows of Eagles games. We celebrate. We sing the Eagles fight song after touchdowns. We make it the best game day experience outside of being at the actual games. Now, we don't show you the video of the game because YouTube would take the channel down. That would be awesome because Eagles Now is a massive channel approaching 80,000 subscribers. But play-by-play, analysis, and instant reactions right here on the show. But download the Odyssey app and see. Terrapin Tom, watch party saved me last year. I'm glad. James Sidner, $10 super chat, another beer cheers. Linebacker's the one area I am concerned about. Nolan Smith, Jalen Hunt have to be all over the field. Versatility should be exhausted with them. Yeah, and I like utilizing versatility with those players. They're plenty fast enough to cover ground, right? I'm concerned about the lack of size with them at the NFL level as far as playing weight. But Hassan Reddick coming out of Temple was smaller. Over time, defined his pass rush moves, his pass rush arsenal. And over the last 4 or 5 years, he's been one of the best edge rushers in the National Football League. And he's a lighter guy. Added weight, but Nolan Smith and Jalen Hunt can do the same. Cheers to you, James. So I'm resetting the Super Chat shot clock. James beat the buzzer. I just gave him a beer cheers. 20, I'll do 20 push-ups. 50 for a beer bong. 100 for a beer boot. 2 minutes back on the clock. Super Chats extend the show. In the meantime, we're talking with the viewers. Andrew Nathan, do we think Howie dodged a bullet with the Hassan contract talk? I'd rather have Reddick on the team. So would I, honestly. So would I.
Yeah, he's holding out, though, with the Jets. Still wants that money.
Yeah, I saw some chatter. He's just not going to play at $15 million, which I believe is non-guaranteed. So maybe if the Jets were like, here's $15 million guaranteed, he'd show up. But it's interesting to me that a player so productive and so destructive for the Eagles defense against offenses during that Super Bowl year, with 16 sacks, 4th in Defensive Player of the Year voting, who has plenty left in the tank, teams don't want to give him a new deal? It's weird. Now, for Philadelphia, they wanted to get cheaper there. David Marcella, come to Rhode Island when you go to Maine. So I'm not driving up, otherwise I'd try to pop in and see you, man. I'm flying into Bangor. Bangor. Banger. Bang Bros.
I hardly know her.
I hardly know her. You got it, Terrapin Tom. All right, 25 seconds left to extend the show with the super chat. If not, we out you.
Clock's ticking.
Do you like our strength at center this year? You're approved. Obviously, Cam Jurgens is an unknown commodity. I thought he played pretty well at right guard. He was drafted to be a center and handpicked by Jason Kelce. Do you trust Jason Kelce's player evaluation? I do. I also trust my eyes. And what I saw from Cam Jurgens in the preseason as a rookie when he was playing center, athletic, agile, good scheme fit. Don't sleep on Dylan McMahon either. I am not going to Arcadia National Park in Maine, Terrapin Tom. I am going to the Belgrade Lakes. So my best friend's family growing up, the Rudisil, shout out to them. I love them. They helped raise me. They always, every year, have a house for a couple of weeks on Long Pond, Maine, the Belgrade Lake section of the state. So we go there, and it's paradise, man. Paradise. 2-minute tennis!
Oh!
2-minute tennis is back! What is up, 2-minute? Great to see you again. That's another cheers. And we extend the show.
Let's go.
1 minute super chat shot clock now. 1 minute super chat shot clock. If we get to 100 in total, I'm doing a beer boot. 3 beers, 1 boot.
With this new style of kickoff, who do you think will be our returner?
Very good question. Yeah. I can't wait for the new kickoff. You know, I was so tired of seeing kickers just boot the ball out of the back of the end zone. Now it requires play design, requires scheme, organization, coaching, putting weapons back there. So I think you could see Cooper DeJean, Anaya Smith, Britton Covey, because it's more of a punt type of formation now as far as the velocity in which defenders are getting downfield. C.J. Gardner-Johnson was back there a little bit. So I can't wait to see what the Eagles do. All right, 1 minute super chat shot clock has expired. Last call. Carol Hosey, you got it. Thank you for all the work that you do for us. We are spoiled. I'm spoiled by you and everybody here. You're approved. Appreciate your insight. We got you. It's a Philly John with this new style of kickoff. We just got to that one. Terrapin. There's a nice restaurant in Belgrade Lakes. I lived in Waterville, Maine for 6 years. Fished an iced fishing tournament on Long Pond. Oh, that's sick, dude. Small world. You're on Long Pond. So, yeah, one of my favorite things about Maine, and I go with, my 2 best friends, and we're all like huge into fitness now. So we'll do workouts, we'll run. There's a good little mountain that you can hike. One of the coolest things I think is either when the sun is rising, the sunrises are absolutely gorgeous, taking a paddleboard out to the middle of the lake when it's so still, a huge body of water being still like that, with the sun rising and the reflection of all the colors on the water, the birds chirping, the loons. The loons are badass birds that can swim underwater and hunt fish. They make really cool noises, and then sunsets, equally as cool. And then at the end of the day, once all the boats and jet skis are off the water, you take the paddleboard out, maybe you have a little drink, a little smoke out on the water, do some swimming. It's the best. Is Texas barbecue really good? Dallas fans try to tell me it's better than KC barbecue. I have not had KC barbecue. I have had Memphis barbecue. Memphis barbecue is phenomenal, tastes great. I'd say that Texas barbecue is excellent. If you were ever in Dallas proper, go to Terry Black's. That's my recommendation. It's the best barbecue in the city, and it's excellent. If you want to go to the Goedert barbecue spot outside of the city And if you want to drive 30 to 40 minutes, go to, what's Trace's spot? In McKinney. It's on the tip of my tongue. Shoot. I always remember. Oh, Hutchins. Go to Hutchins Barbecue in McKinney, Texas. They give you free desserts. The barbecue's awesome. And what you also have to get is the Texas Twinkie. It's a jalapeno pepper stuffed with bacon and cream cheese. Or no, stuffed with brisket and cream cheese wrapped in bacon. So good. So those are my 2 barbecue spots. It's excellent. But Andrew Nathan, because of the Hispanic influence in Dallas, I think the Tex-Mex is awesome. If you ever want to get Tex-Mex in Dallas, go to Las Palmas, get some margaritas, and get the steak fajitas. All right, we're out of here. Always like talking life. That's always fun too, in addition to talking football. Shout out to Chip. Shout out to all of you for making today's show possible. We will catch you next week here on Philadelphia Eagles Now with plenty of content to come every single day.